gun violence, the #1 cause of death for kids in this country. Most Washington lawmakers are opposed to additional federal gun legislation, so the battle to protect America's kids is falling to the states. In North Carolina, the situation is especially dire. According to a report released this year, children are 51% more likely to die of gun violence in North Carolina than they are in the rest of the country. Joining us now is someone working to change that. North Carolina's Democratic Attorney General Josh Stein. He also is a candidate for governor in the state. Mr. Attorney General, thanks for being with us this morning. You've talked about things like red flag laws, background checks, raising the age to get an AR-15 to 21. Not exactly gun grabbing, but just some new rules and some new laws that, by the way, have broad national support across parties. What's been the response to those ideas in North Carolina?
Well, there are two ways you can measure response: by the people or the Republican politicians in our General Assembly. The people, there is widespread consensus that dangerous, violent people should not have guns, and that's why we have comprehensive background check systems. That's why we have red flag laws to take guns away from people who pose a risk to themselves and to others. And that's why kids who can't buy a beer, who can't buy a cigarette, but can buy an AR-15 should not be able to until they're 21 years old. There are so many sensible things like safe storage laws that if we enacted here in North Carolina, they wouldn't solve this gun problem, but they would have a measurable impact on reducing the number of people who are dying gun deaths. We have a Republican General Assembly that seems to be completely captured by those who want to have guns everywhere, and I am all for the Second Amendment. These two ideas, respecting the Second Amendment and keeping guns out of violent people's hands, are in no ways inconsistent.
Mr. Attorney General, I grew up in a gun culture, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Northwest Florida. And, it was very common, and I'm sure you have too. You walk in for Thanksgiving dinner at your relative's house. They got the shotguns up against the wall. But guess what? They're locked up, right? They got handguns. They're locked up. I'd go someplace, probably had 10, 12 guns in that house between hunting rifles and pistols, whatever else, shotguns. They're all locked up. My point is that, like, in every church I've ever been, I talk about churches, my tour of churches in the Deep South. A lot of them are NRA members. They're all hunters. Not one of them I met in 60 years have said, I need an AR-15, and nobody can tell me that I can't leave my shotgun laying around on a table if I don't want to. I say all this to say these legislators that are fighting red flag laws, that are fighting safe stores, that are fighting all of these things, they are so radically out of touch, even with gun owners in Northwest Florida, gun owners in North Carolina, gun owners and hunters across America.
I agree, Joe. Yesterday, we held a forum in Charlotte on the youth mental health crisis, which is real. It's incredibly painful to see what our young people are going through. And the keynote speaker was a dad who talked about his son who was experiencing an intense depressive moment. He was at his lowest of the low, and he went to his dad's gun safe to try to get a shotgun to blow his head off. Thank God he could not get into that safe, and that young man, William, is alive today. And it's only because that father had safely stored his weapon. We must have safe storage because too many kids are getting their hands on guns, and terrible things are happening as a result.
So, Mr. Attorney General, obviously we're talking about guns, but it's also these guns are fueled sometimes by hate. And you're supporting in your state the Hate Crimes Prevention Act. Tell us a little bit about what's in it, and also that it can't get to the floor for a vote because it's not being supported by Republicans in your state.
Yeah. What we have seen is that hate speech can lead to hate crimes. And the number of the increase in hate crimes that are happening against all populations. I mean, it doesn't matter if you are black, if you are Jewish, if you're Hispanic, if you're gay, or any other of these marginalized groups, the number of increased in incidents is really very troubling. Senator Jay Chowdhury has introduced for 4 sessions in a row hate crimes law that would strengthen enforcement enforcement, raise the penalties. It would expand the groups, the people who are protected by this law. And importantly, it would increase the reporting requirements by local law enforcement so we have a full sense of the scope of the problem here in North Carolina, because right now we simply just don't know.
North Carolina Attorney General Josh Stein, we appreciate you being with us this morning. I'm sure we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you very much, sir.